Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This is my game development learning outcome from week 1. So let me introduce myself. My name is Nurlinda. My metric number is A19EC0134 from section 1. This is going to be my learning outcome, which are what is game purpose, game rules, and game engine. And lastly, I'm going to talk about the rock, paper, scissors flowchart. So from what I learned, what is game? In briefly, a game is structured form of play usually undertaken for entertainment or fun and sometimes used as educational tool. So in a game, there are four main elements which are goals, interactions, obstacles, and rules. Firstly, goals uh, mostly they have primary goals and secondary goals, such as, for example, primary goals is we need to move to the next level or saving a prince, and the secondary goals, before you go to the primary goals, you maybe need to kill a monster before you save the princess or something. And next interaction is how the player affects the game directly, like press the button, press the keyboard, touch the screens or the console, maybe joystick. Okay, and next obstacle is about how the game, how we play the game, like how the game can prevent the player to achieve the goals. So it can be explicit, which is indirect, and abstract, direct. For some example of the obstacle are enemies, moving platforms, and time limit. And lastly, rules is what player can and cannot do in the game to achieve the goals. The game must put the tutorial or written rules in every game before they start the game. Earlier, we have talked about the what is game. So in this section, where we will talk about the game purposes. So the most common purposes for game is to entertainment, which mostly to keep us away from boredom and make us happy. Because sometimes we play games, multiplayer games to be exact, we connecting with friends and we have activities. Next is educational, to teach some things. Sometimes fail to be fun because the game is only played once. For example, educational, we can say like scratch game, to make a game by playing games. And next, advert games is demanded by advertising agencies. It's a good way to profit and product placement in the game. Next is productivity, such as gamification technique, monitor performance, give prizes to the best player, and help people to remember. Next is science. Sometimes games can be used as study player behavior, reaction, and attitudes, and to collect data. And lastly, for the therapy, sometimes we can heal people physically and mentally, such as we play board game to teach a good manner. In developing games, we usually need to divide into few roles to make the game work. So firstly, we have design, arts, technology, business, and programming. For design, usually they manage to make all work well because they usually the one that design the game, and they are the one the project manager. Next is art. Arts covers a lot such as sounds, illustrator, 3D, and animation. For sound is, for example, music, sound effect, voice actor, and etc. Illustrator is like character of the game, items, props, and concept of art. 3D is quite self-explaining, which is 3D modeling, and animation can be in 2D or 3D. Next is technology. For example, what the game engine they're using, and business is to marketing, social marketing, advertising, and businesses. Basically, it's on how to marketing the games for people to play. And lastly, the core one is programming, for developer to create the game. Nowadays, there are a lot of game engine for people can use to create a game. For example, Construct 2 and 3, Game Maker, Unity 3D, and Unreal Engine. There are not so many difference, only like what language they are using. For example, Unity 3D using C Sharp and Unreal Engine using C++. And lastly, I'm going to explain about the rock, paper, scissors flowchart. Rock, paper, scissors is a classic two-person game where rock going to crush a scissors, scissors going to cut the paper, and paper cover rocks. So it's a fair and square game. So from the flowchart, it's going to start, and since there are two players, the player one going to guess either they will show rock, paper, or scissors. And when the player two guess, for example, rock or paper or scissors, if the player two guess rock, it's going to be draw. If player two guess paper, the player two wins. And if the player two choose scissors, then player one going to win. And the process is going to be the same, following the rules of the game, where rock going to crush scissors, scissors going to cut the paper, and papers going to cover the rock.